Tape is rolling.
Welcome back to the Tea Shop Tapes. I actually have a decent range with such a deep voice, but what the studio did to my tracks on our new song barely sounds like me. It is completely overprocessed.
Boo-hoo, princess power. At least you have a range. I am officially verbally embarrassed by the fact that I only got spoken word bits on that track waiting at the end of this episode. I really can't sing, so it is basically a white girl rap fever dream.
Noted, I fear ya. You artist types are so temperamental. Anyway, for the alphabet challenge, I have the letter J.
Stop calling me that. And J is for jaded, which is exactly how I feel about this whole song.
Yeah.
Let's just pivot to the actual audit. We are opening the ledger for January 2004, Part 2.
We definitely are opening that ledger today. So pull up a chair right here at the boba shop table with us, grab your tea, settle in, because today we are breaking down just a massive stack of source material.
Yeah, you are sitting right in the splash zone today, honestly. We have 4 huge issues on the primary docket, so we are going to be tearing into The Incredible Hulk, issue 63, Iron Man issue 74, Ultimate 6 issue 4, and NYX issue 2.
Right. And, you know, it is highly appropriate that we just spent the entire morning arguing about our heavily edited music tracks, right? The pressure of hiding our true sound, that whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the theme for today is basically built entirely around hidden identities, like tactical overhauls and just the sheer logistical nightmare of keeping a secret in a world that desperately wants to expose you.
Exactly. Every single protagonist in these 4 issues is basically forced to alter who they are. They have to hide behind a completely different face just to survive the pressure of their environments.
Yeah, think about that feeling for a second. Just not recognizing your own reflection in the mirror. It is terrifying.
Or in my case, not recognizing your own vocal playback in the studio monitors. The sheer necessity of altering your core identity for tactical survival, well, it is a brutal recurring mechanism here.
It totally is. And, you know, speaking of hiding behind a different face, we really need to dive straight into the incredibly muddy waters of The Incredible Hulk issue 63.
Oh, the logistics in this issue are just staggering. I mean, we pick up exactly where we left off previously with the Hulk crashing straight into Nadia's diner.
Right, because he is there to rescue her and that mysterious Mr. Blue character.
Correct. He crashes in to save them from a massive swarm of krill.
And this is where the emotional bedrock of the entire narrative just violently shifts. The Hulk makes this mind-bending discovery right there in the middle of the diner wreckage.
Yeah, the reveal is quite significant.
It is heartbreaking. The person he has known as Mr. Blue this whole time is actually his late wife, Betty Ross.
Which, logistically speaking, is absurd. She reveals that she got extensive plastic surgery just to completely change her face.
She underwent a massive physiological alteration just to hide her identity and protect Bruce.
Right, but while they are having this tearful reunion in the diner, the krill just attack them again. They do not wait around for the emotional closure.
I need you to just pause for a second and process the emotional magnitude of what Betty actually did here. I mean, she gave away her face, you know.
Well, she submitted to a surgical procedure, yes.
No, it is way deeper than that. She erased her own physical identity so she could stay one step ahead of the people trying to destroy him. It is the ultimate manifestation of changing who you are for someone else.
I suppose that is one way to look at it.
It reminds me of how you hide your pristine 4-octave vocal range behind that cold, analytical exterior of yours. People are just rarely who you think they are.
Your emotional read on this situation is completely clouding your judgment regarding the actual tactical threat on the board. The krill are supposedly elite, right?
I mean, they are a terrifying biological swarm. They are literally trying to devour Betty and Nadia right there in the diner.
Supposedly genetically engineered bloodsuckers created by a shadowy mastermind at home base. But their operational design is entirely flawed.
How so? The Hulk has to go into full beast mode just to keep these monsters away from the women he cares about.
Right, but look at the environmental weakness. During the attack, the Hulk just grabs the mass of these elite bioweapons and tosses them straight into a water tower.
Yeah, he throws them into the water.
And the water immediately shorts them out. I mean, how does a mastermind engineer a supreme biological weapon that is instantly defeated by common tap water?
Stop looking at a spreadsheet for 2 seconds, you absolute dingus. You are totally missing the panic of the moment here.
I'm not missing the panic. I am tracking the tactical efficiency of the enemy.
But Betty is heartbroken right now because she realizes Nadia actually fell in love with Bruce. So Betty's huge facial sacrifice feels almost hollow in that exact moment.
While the women are busy recovering in the ruins of the water tower, the remaining krill actually manage to swarm the Hulk. They sink their teeth into his thick skin.
Yeah, one of them actually manages to draw his gamma-irradiated blood, which is insane.
He smashes that specific creature to bits, obviously, but the chaos around them is only escalating at this point.
Totally. Because suddenly, out of nowhere, a helicopter carrying Doc Samson and Sandra Verdugo arrives on the scene.
Right, and they use their chopper spotlights to scare off the remaining krill for a brief moment.
But this is where everything just completely falls apart. The Hulk is totally consumed by his savage persona right now. Bruce Banner is completely submerged mentally.
Which means the Hulk does not recognize the helicopter as a friendly asset. And this is where the collateral damage metrics just go off the charts.
He violently attacks the chopper. He just rips into it and sends it crashing straight to the ground. It is just this terrifying display of raw power.
Totally unhinged from any logical thought process.
Oh.
But out of the flying wreckage of this highly expensive military-grade aircraft, Sandra Verdugo emerges.
Oh boy, here we go.
And she immediately begins stripping down to her underwear right there in the wreckage.
Because apparently she has this highly unique visual method for calming down a rampaging gamma monster.
It is a fascinating tactical distraction. But Nadia is completely traumatized by everything happening, right? So she finds a rifle in the chopper wreckage.
Yeah, and Nadia aims it directly at Sandra because she completely misinterprets the stripping technique as some kind of immediate threat.
Which forces Betty to physically intervene. Betty realizes what Sandra is trying to achieve, and she knocks the rifle aside.
Nadia completely misses her target, but the loud sound of the gunshot just echoes across the desert and completely ruins Sandra's calming technique.
It proves my point perfectly. Auditory triggers are vastly more powerful than visual distractions in an active combat zone. The sudden noise just enrages the Hulk all over again.
And because everyone is suddenly screaming and trying to calm him down at the exact same time, they all completely miss the critical detail of the fight.
Exactly. A single lone krill sneaks up through the dirt, bites the Hulk directly on the ankle, and just slips away into the night with a fresh blood sample.
Which is terrifying, right? Because the Hulk feels the bite.
It actually highlights the sheer inefficiency of the home base master plan. I mean, think about it.
What, that he chases it?
No, their entire grand tactical operation relies on a genetically engineered swarm being defeated by a water tower, a helicopter randomly crashing, and a single surviving bug biting an ankle and just running away.
But the Hulk immediately chases the creature as it flees back to home base. He is basically functioning as a massive, unstoppable tracking missile headed right for the villains.
Meanwhile, back at the crash site, Betty manages to finally explain her true identity to Doc Samson. So that secret is out.
But they are completely stranded in the desert. The spotlights on the wrecked chopper only have power for like one more hour, so they are totally vulnerable to another swarm attack as soon as it gets dark.
And over at home base, the mastermind is tracking his little blood-stealing bug. He asks his team how far away the Hulk is.
Yeah, only to discover the horrifying truth that the Hulk is tracking the bug right back to their heavily fortified front door. It is the absolute perfect cliffhanger.
Look, let us just evaluate the actual mechanism of a tracking operation based on a wounded biological entity.
You are overthinking the bug tracking, I swear.
The sheer variables of wind speed, terrain, and the Hulk's physical stamina make relying on a bug carrying a single blood sample a completely unpredictable gamble.
You act like home base actually planned for the Hulk to chase them. They totally didn't. The mastermind is completely terrified.
He thought he scored a massive victory by stealing the blood.
Right, but he accidentally handed the Hulk a giant glowing neon sign pointing straight to their hidden underground facility.
Which just further proves my point about poor tactical planning. Any proper extraction protocol for a biological sample requires a sterile, untraceable exit strategy.
A bug flying across the desert while being chased by a green behemoth is definitely not sterile.
Exactly. It is a terrible execution of asset retrieval.
But it is actually brilliant storytelling, because it forces the villains to face the immediate consequences of their actions. They poked the bear, and now the bear is literally sprinting toward their living room.
The living room in question being a highly classified bunker. I am very curious to see how the architectural integrity of home base actually holds up against a full kinetic assault from a gamma-powered entity.
Oh, we will definitely see that massive fight play out in the next ledger. But for now, we really have to look at the emotional wreckage left back at the diner.
You mean the helicopter wreckage?
Both. Betty Ross has to sit in the ruins of a helicopter and explain to her closest friends why she chose to look like a complete stranger.
Well, the medical implications of that surgery are quite fascinating. to alter bone structure and facial tissue to the point of being totally unrecognizable to your own husband.
It is crazy.
It requires a world-class surgical team operating under extreme secrecy.
And she did it all completely out of love.
Yeah.
She subjected herself to immense physical pain and the total loss of her own reflection just to give Bruce a chance at peace. That is a level of devotion most people cannot even comprehend.
I am ready to render my final evaluation on this issue. From a strictly analytical perspective, the krill are a complete logistical failure. However, the Hulk smashing a water tower and bringing down a military helicopter provides a massive spike in property damage.
So what is your score? Let me give mine first. I am scoring this a solid 8 out of 10, based purely on the heartbreaking reality of Betty Ross living behind a stranger's face.
And your reasoning.
The psychological toll of watching the man you love fall for someone else while you are standing right there next to him is just devastating.
I am issuing a highly respectable 7 out of 10 on my metric. The bombs category is heavily satisfied by the chopper crash and the absolute destruction of the water tower.
And the other half.
The boobs category is perfectly met by Sandra Verdugo, stripping down in the wreckage just to calm the beast. It is a wonderfully balanced issue for my metric.
Moving right along from that absolute mess, we are opening the file on Iron Man issue 74. We are basically trading biological monsters for the absolute shark tank of Washington politics and corporate maneuvering.
Tony Stark initiates a massive tactical pivot in this issue. It is quite impressive.
Oh, it is wild. He walks straight up to Chief of Staff Stu Conrad and casually drops a literal nuclear bomb of news on his desk.
Tony announces that the president is going to name him as the new Secretary of Defense.
And Stu Conrad completely loses his mind over this news. His jaw just hits the floor, and he starts sputtering about Tony being this millionaire playboy.
Right, a millionaire playboy with a highly publicized history of drinking problems. Conrad is displaying a completely normal risk assessment reaction here.
You think?
Putting a civilian contractor with a history of substance abuse in charge of the national defense grid is a logistical nightmare for any political administration.
But Tony is so calm about the whole thing. He explains that a man named Birch has gone full corporate pirate.
Correct. Birch is actively stealing Stark patents and misusing the technology in ways that will inevitably get innocent people killed.
Exactly. So Tony calculates that the only way to establish real oversight and prevent his technology from becoming a global death trap is to just assume total federal authority.
He requires the regulatory power to stop the unauthorized distribution of his patents. It is a hostile takeover via government appointment.
He is stepping way out of his comfort zone just to protect the world. It really reminds me of the sheer anxiety I felt stepping into the vocal booth for that rap track.
There is a slight difference between federal defense policy and a music studio booth, but go on.
Sometimes you just have to take on a role you absolutely hate just to make sure the final product does not end in total disaster.
Well, to prove his point about the stolen technology, Tony flies to an unidentified military base out in Maryland.
Yeah, because Birch is currently at this exact base conducting a live demonstration of the stolen Stark tech for high-ranking military officials.
And Iron Man makes a grand, completely unannounced entrance right in the middle of the presentation.
He totally ruins the live demo. He proves to everyone watching that Birch's stolen tech is an absolute catastrophic failure waiting to happen.
Tony and Birch get into a highly heated verbal altercation right there on the tarmac of the military base. And during this argument, Tony realizes a critical piece of leverage.
Oh, this part is so good.
Birch has absolutely no idea about the pending Secretary of Defense appointment. He is completely in the dark.
Right, and Tony almost drops the news right there just to humiliate Birch in front of the generals, but he holds back.
It is a brilliantly calculated corporate boardroom ambush.
He realizes that keeping his altered identity a secret will maximize the psychological impact when Birch finally hears the news from someone else later on.
By withholding that specific data, Tony ensures Birch will continue to overplay his hand politically right up until the trap snaps shut on his entire operation.
After leaving Maryland, Tony heads straight to the White House for this brutal strategy session.
He sits down with Stu Conrad and Artemis Pithens to prepare for the inevitable bloodbath of his upcoming confirmation hearings.
And the preparation involves just dragging every single skeleton out of Tony's closet and putting them on the table.
They have to methodically address his Playboy past, his drinking, and his various corporate missteps. They are essentially building a defensive perimeter against the congressional committees.
The intense psychological weight Tony is placing on himself here is immense. I mean, sitting in a room while political operatives ruthlessly dissect your worst mistakes takes a brutal emotional toll on a person.
But the true logistical impossibility happens when Tony actually returns home.
Oh, the corporate stuff?
To avoid blatant conflicts of interest, he systematically sells off and relinquishes all connections to his massive global conglomerate.
He is literally divesting himself of his life's work. He is tearing down his own corporate empire just to ensure he can take this federal position without any ethical compromises being weaponized against him.
The speed at which a billionaire divests a multinational corporation in this narrative is entirely fictional. It is ridiculous.
It is comic book.
The legal paperwork, shareholder notifications, and asset liquidations would take years, not an afternoon in a home office with a cup of coffee.
You are totally missing the soul of the issue with your complete paperwork obsession.
Paperwork governs reality.
The actual climax of the book is Tony standing before a massive crowd and delivering an incredibly audacious speech. He publicly promises that no one ever needs to die from war again.
Which is a statistically impossible promise.
Why do you have to be like this?
You cannot eradicate global conflict through technological oversight alone. Human nature dictates that violence will persist, regardless of who occupies the office of the Secretary of Defense.
I need you to just imagine the gravity of standing in front of the world and making that vow. He is taking the darkest parts of his own legacy as a weapons manufacturer and trying to forge a perfect, bloodless future.
It is naive.
It is a stunning display of empathy.
Empathy does not win confirmation hearings.
Yeah.
Furthermore, declaring an end to war casualties puts an impossible performance metric on his own shoulders.
He is trying to inspire people.
The moment a single soldier falls in combat, his entire political platform collapses under the weight of his own promise.
He knows the risk, right? That is exactly what makes the sacrifice so potent. He is willing to look like a failure down the line if it means saving even a fraction of the lives currently at risk from Birch's stolen patents.
Let us examine the mechanics of Birch's operation for a second. Stealing proprietary armor designs and attempting to mass produce them for military application requires a vast manufacturing infrastructure.
Okay, so
Where's Birch actually getting the raw materials and the fabrication plants to pull this off unnoticed?
the issue basically implies he has super deep connections within the military-industrial complex.
He is essentially bypassing the standard research and development phase by pirating Tony's finished schematics.
Which completely proves why Tony needs the Secretary of Defense position right now. He cannot fight a massive systemic industrial piracy operation from the outside looking in.
Correct. He needs the clearance codes and the actual regulatory authority to freeze Birch's manufacturing notes.
It is just so fascinating watching a man known for his chaotic independence completely submit himself to the rigid bureaucracy of the federal government.
He is trading his freedom for a desk job.
Exactly. Just to act as a human shield for the rest of the world. It is noble.
It is the ultimate tactical pivot. But I am highly skeptical of his ability to navigate the daily grind of congressional budgeting committees.
Yeah, Tony Stark thrives in a workshop. Definitely not in a subcommittee hearing on defense appropriations.
Which brings us back to the core theme. He is forcing himself to play a part that does not fit his natural range.
Like me with the spoken word bits, he is stepping up to the microphone and delivering a verse he is deeply uncomfortable with, just to serve the greater good of the project.
I am ready to close the ledger on this issue and deliver my final assessment.
Fine, let us hear it. Actually, I will go first. I am giving this issue a brilliant 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yes. The political maneuvering combined with the raw vulnerability of Tony facing his past mistakes makes this just an incredible study of character growth.
Well, I am issuing a severe 2 out of 10 on my metric.
2? Are you kidding me?
There is a profound lack of visual appeal in the boardroom scenes, satisfying absolutely none of the boobs requirement. Furthermore, the only action is a ruined tech demonstration.
So what?
It leaves the bombs category starved for actual explosions. 2 out of 10.
Your metric is an absolute tragedy, but we must press forward. Because we are moving into the sheer chaos of Ultimate 6, Issue 4. The tension in this book is thick enough to cut with a broadsword.
Oh, the operational leverage here is fantastic. We open in the Hamptons with Norman Osborn executing a true masterclass in high-level tactical leverage.
He makes a direct phone call to the President of the United States, and he just immediately begins this massive extortion campaign.
Osborn exposes the darkest secret of the entire intelligence community. He tells the president that Nick Fury has been illegally holding Osborn and 4 other megavillains in a secret black site.
And doing it without any due process or a trial, just totally off the books.
The president immediately contacts Fury and lays into him over this catastrophic breach of protocol. Osborn has bypassed the entire military command structure with a single phone call.
And Osborn demands 3 very specific things in exchange for his silence. He wants his son returned to him.
He wants $100 million in untraceable cash.
And he wants Nick Fury thrown in a federal prison, like immediately.
He backs up these demands with a massive threat. If the administration does not comply, Osborn will leak the scandalous black site story live to the global press. It is a flawless execution of psychological warfare.
And to make matters worse, Norman is not even working alone here. He has his entire crew geared up and ready for a literal war.
Right. Octavius, Dylan, Kravinoff, and Marco are all standing by to tear the world apart if their demands are not instantly met.
While Osborn is applying all this pressure to the executive branch, the Ultimates are out attempting a total brute force investigation.
They fly a massive Quinjet directly into a building filled with people who worked on Craven's reality show.
They crash a heavy aircraft into a building just to demand answers about Craven's current location. It is totally insane.
Nobody in the building is talking, which predictably causes Nick Fury to lose his temper and initiate a full facility lockdown.
Fury just arrests everyone on the premises and confiscates all their materials. Captain America glares at Fury with absolute disgust over these super heavy-handed tactics.
And Fury glares right back.
Uh-huh.
The internal chain of command is fracturing in real time.
But the villains are already like 3 steps ahead of the heroes anyway.
While Fury is wasting vital time arresting television producers, Otto Octavius quietly steals all the critical security codes they need for their next assault.
Which sets up the disaster perfectly.
And this is where I must severely critique Nick Fury's containment protocols. Allowing 5 highly intelligent, super-powered hostile threats to coordinate a massive cyber attack from inside a supposedly secure black site is a complete dereliction of duty.
The failure leads to absolute atmospheric dread back at the Triskelion. I mean, Peter Parker is just hanging out in the facility having a totally normal phone call with Aunt May.
He is entirely unaware of the impending disaster.
Suddenly, a facility agent just starts screaming about a massive system hack. Fury tries to bark orders to shut down the external grid, but he is entirely too late to stop the infiltration.
The lights go out instantly. A total facility-wide blackout descends on the Triskelion.
The terror of Peter's spider sense going wild in the pitch black is such a masterclass in building suspense. He knows something horrible is in the room with him, but he cannot see it.
Electro breaches the perimeter first. He bursts into the darkened room and begins violently zapping the facility agents with high-voltage electrical strikes.
The chaos is literally suffocating. Sand suddenly starts pouring into the room out of nowhere.
And before Peter can even react to the electricity, a massive hammer constructed of dense sand slams into him.
It sends him flying across the room, and then the structural integrity of the ceiling completely fails.
It implodes inward as the Green Goblin comes crashing down into the facility, completely bypassing the reinforced blackout protocols.
The Goblin is just laughing like a complete maniac in the dark. He lands directly over Peter, calls him his boy, and then hits him with a massive, blinding jolt of electricity. It is the ultimate betrayal of safety.
The villains achieve total operational superiority here. They paralyze the command structure, they bypass the security grid, and they neutralize the primary superhuman asset on the board within minutes.
Think about how violating that actually feels. You're in a secure room, you think you are safe, and suddenly the lights die and actual monsters start tearing through the walls.
It is effective, certainly.
It is the exact dark, sudden chaos I felt hearing that totally altered, unfamiliar vocal playback in the studio today. Just totally disorienting.
Your ability to connect a violent supervillain siege to our studio mixing session is truly a marvel of cognitive dissonance. But let us examine the physics of Sandman constructing a high-density blunt instrument in a confined space.
Go ahead, ruin the magic. He is essentially compacting loose silica granules into a solid mass fast enough to generate lethal blunt force trauma.
Yeah, so.
The sheer kinetic energy required to fling Peter Parker across a reinforced bunker is staggering.
Well, exactly. And combining that physical assault with Electro's ionized discharge creates a multi-vector threat environment. Peter Parker had absolutely zero tactical options the moment the lights went out.
He was completely suppressed.
It breaks my heart, though, because Peter was literally just on the phone with his aunt, complaining about typical teenage drama. He's just a kid caught in a war zone designed by billionaires and black ops directors.
His age is completely irrelevant to the tactical reality on the ground. When you wear the uniform and operate inside a classified military installation, you become a valid military target.
He is a teenager.
Osborne recognized him as a high-value asset and neutralized him accordingly.
You say neutralize like they just turned off a washing machine? The goblin calling him his boy before electrocuting him is deeply, deeply psychological. It is a twisted father-son dynamic rooted in pure abuse. Osborne understands that breaking an opponent's spirit is just as vital as breaking their body. By asserting a twisted paternal dominance, he strips Peter of his agency before delivering the physical blow.
It is sickening. And it all stems from Fury's own arrogance. He thought he could just bury his mistakes in a black site, but those mistakes dug themselves out and organized a masterclass in asymmetrical warfare.
Fury's reliance on compartmentalized information ultimately doomed his own facility. When you isolate your intelligence network, a single breach in the firewall brings down the entire operational grid.
I am giving this a phenomenal 9 out of 10. The sheer dread of the blackout and the terror of being hunted in the dark by a cackling goblin makes it a perfect psychological thriller.
I am awarding this an incredibly strong 8 out of 10 on my metric. The bombs category is massively overflowing here.
Because of the base assault.
We have a Quinjet crashing into a building, a sandhammer physical assault, and Electro conducting mass zappings in a dark room. It is a tactical masterpiece.
Well, our final major deep dive of the day takes us straight into the gutter. We are opening the file on NYX issue 2, and I need to warn you that this narrative is just a bleak, unyielding look at a forced alienation.
The street-level logistics in this issue are deeply flawed, to say the least. But the narrative begins with a teacher named Cameron Palmer.
She is physically shaking in her bed after witnessing a horrific fight at the school the previous day.
Her boyfriend Sam is trying to be supportive. He is playing the caretaker role, whipping up breakfast in bed and trying to get her to eat while she processes her trauma.
We immediately cut from that relatively quiet domestic scene to just a total disaster over at the Nixon household. A mother discovers a secret stash of white powder hidden in the room of her son, Ty.
And the mother does what any terrified parent would do. She marches right into the bathroom and flushes the entire drug supply straight down the toilet.
Ty realizes his illicit inventory has been completely liquidated and just loses his mind. A violent, full-blown physical brawl erupts in the middle of the house.
It is total chaos between Ty, his mother, and the younger twins.
And Keaton is just standing in the middle of this broken home, watching her family physically tear each other apart over flushed drugs. She is totally fed up with the chaos and flees the house to seek refuge at school.
But the school's threat assessment protocols are a complete failure. When Keaton arrives, she is intercepted by Cameron Palmer and dragged into the principal's office.
Yeah, for this super aggressive interrogation regarding the previous day's fight.
While Keaton is getting the third degree behind closed doors, a slick kid named Hector strolls up to the front entrance of the school.
He walks right up to the security guard manning the metal detector.
Hector casually slips the security guard a $20 bill. In exchange for this microscopic bribe, the guard allows Hector to bypass the metal detector entirely.
While carrying a heavy, weapon-shaped brown paper bag hidden right under his coat.
It is absurd.
It is a devastating moment because you realize there is absolutely no safety net for these kids. The adults are either traumatized, fighting each other, or selling out their security posts for pocket change.
I cannot believe a professional security guard would risk federal prison and the lives of hundreds of students for a mere $20 bribe. The economic risk-reward ratio of that transaction is completely absurd.
Desperation makes people do terrible things, man. Anyway, Keaton refuses to answer any of the principal's questions and is eventually released.
She heads out into the crowded hallway, desperate for a smoke break to calm her nerves.
But she is intercepted by her friend Kara, who is demanding answers about the previous day. Keaton has no answers to give her. She attempts to evade the conversation, but spots Hector moving aggressively toward her through the crowd.
She tries to ghost him in the hallway, but she cannot escape. Hector corners her with a sickening smirk on his face.
He tells her he has a surprise for her, reaches right into his coat, and pulls out a gun.
Cameron Palmer spots the confrontation from down the hall and attempts to call out to Keaton, entirely unaware of the firearm being drawn. And Hector pulls the trigger.
But right as the bullet leaves the chamber, time suddenly freezes.
Which is fascinating mechanically.
Kaiden opens her eyes and sees the lethal projectile hanging completely suspended in midair, literally mere inches from her forehead.
The brutal efficiency of this sudden time stop mechanic is fascinating. Every single student in the crowded hallway is frozen, solid in their tracks, completely unaware of the temporal anomaly.
Kaden realizes she finally has control of the situation. She skips right over to Hector, who is frozen like a statue with the gun still in his hand, and just begins laying down serious threats right to his face.
She spends precious temporal energy gloating instead of actually disarming the hostile threat. Her failure to secure the weapon results in a catastrophic outcome when the temporal field collapses.
Reality just comes crashing back down with a deafening bang. Kaden spins around, completely shattering the illusion of control she thought she had. The bullet hit an unintended target.
Kaden discovers her friend Kara sitting on the hallway floor. Kara is covered in blood, cradling the lifeless body of their teacher, Cameron Palmer. The collateral damage is absolute.
The psychological horror of Kaden thinking she had gained supreme control of her life by freezing time, only to unfreeze reality and find her teacher dead and her best friend traumatized. It is raw and heartbreaking.
It is the ultimate tragedy of alienation.
It totally is.
The narrative then executes a massive 6-month time jump. Principal Wiseman arrives at Cameron's house to check on her recovery, proving that the gunshot was not immediately fatal, but severely debilitating.
Wiseman reveals that Kaden vanished on the exact day of the shooting and no one has seen her since. But later that exact same day, Kaden finally emerges from hiding and sneaks into Cameron's house.
Keaton discovers a very grim scene. Cameron Palmer is bleeding out in the bathtub after a severe attempt to end her own life due to the lingering trauma of the hallway shooting.
It is just a relentless downward spiral. Every single character in this issue is broken by the events around them. I am honestly emotionally exhausted just reviewing this file.
Let us rewind to the physics of the time stop incident for a moment. Suspending kinetic energy mid-flight defies all known thermodynamic laws.
Are we really doing this right now?
The bullet maintains its velocity potential while remaining stationary in three-dimensional space. It is a logistical anomaly.
You are treating a miraculous manifestation of a mutant survival instinct like a basic math equation. The point is that Kaden was granted a divine second chance to fix her life, and she wasted it on petty revenge.
A proper tactical response would have been removing the firearm from Hector's hand, ejecting the magazine, and clearing the chamber. Gloating at a frozen adversary provides absolutely zero defensive value.
She is a frightened teenager, not a trained Black Ops operative. She has spent her whole life feeling completely powerless, and the very second she gets a tiny taste of authority, she indulges in it. That is a deeply human flaw.
It is a flaw that resulted in a civilian casualty. When you possess reality-altering abilities, ignorance of basic threat neutralization protocols ceases to be an excuse.
I want you to think about the absolute horror of reality snapping back into place. 1 second the hallway is dead silent, and the next second the deafening roar of a gunshot echoes off the lockers, followed immediately by screaming.
Well, the auditory shockwave in a confined tiled space would certainly be disorienting. Hector firing a weapon in a crowded corridor practically guarantees a chaotic stampede, making medical intervention for the victim significantly harder.
And Kaden has to stand there knowing she had all the time in the world to just move the bullet, but she just let it hang there. She literally walked out of its path and let it hit the woman trying to save her.
The guilt matrix on that specific action is unquantifiable. It certainly explains why she vanished for 6 months. Surviving an assassination attempt is traumatic, but causing a secondary casualty through sheer negligence is identity-destroying.
Which leads directly to that horrific bathtub scene. Cameron Palmer survived the physical wound, but the psychological wound festered until she just could not take it anymore. The trauma spread like a virus from Hector to Kaden to Cameron.
The street-level violence in this specific narrative is highly documented and procedurally grim. I am prepared to issue my final score for this tragic sequence of events.
Okay, I am giving this issue a highly emotional 10 out of 10. The absolute heartbreak of Kaden trying to survive a broken home only to walk into a bloody school hallway is just a masterpiece of dark storytelling.
I am issuing a respectable 6 out of 10 on my metric. The bombs category is heavily supported by the direct gun violence in the hallway and the grim realities of the bathtub scene. It is a dark but highly effective display of collateral damage.
It's time for the speed round.
Dibs on Deshi.
Ready, round 1. Life moves pretty fast. If you do not stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
That is Matthew Broderick from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You cannot break my timing. New Mutants issue 7 features Josh healing Amara from a coma, resulting in her exploding, splitting, and securing Josh double detention before his parents legally transfer his guardianship to the Xavier Institute.
The rejection of the found family trope hits incredibly hard when Josh blows off Donnie's attempt to comfort him. I give it a 7 out of 10.
I give it a 5 out of 10 because Amora exploding provides a decent blast radius for the bomb's metric, but the administrative detention paperwork drags down the momentum. The Punisher issue 35 features Frank Castle luring Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Daredevil into a trap where he blasts Wolverine's midsection with a bazooka and traps Spidey on a pressure plate bomb.
Watching Frank Castle outsmart 3 major heroes with vintage booby traps is pure Saturday morning cartoon fun. I give it an 8 out of 10.
I issue an 8 out of 10 strictly because obliterating Wolverine's torso with a bazooka and rigging a room with high explosives is the absolute pinnacle of the bomb's requirement. The spectacular Spider-Man issue 6 details Flash Thompson miraculously moving his video game character, while Doc Ock upgrades his metal arms and threatens a public unmasking in Times Square, forcing Peter to dive into the river to escape.
The small victory of Flash squeezing the toy perfectly balances the terrifying threat of Doc Ock demanding a public execution of Peter's secret identity. I give it a 9 out of 10.
I give it a lowly 3 out of 10 because diving into a river is a cowardly tactical retreat that deprives my bomb's metric of any actual explosive combat. Ultimate X-Men issue 39 involves Jean Grey suffering massive pyro fallout, while Wolverine's hunt for Weapon X ends with Tara committing suicide, prompting S.H.I.E.L.D. Commander Dugan to ruthlessly chew out the X-Men for Logan's highly public past.
The emotional weight of Jean pushing everyone away because of her fiery trauma perfectly mirrors Logan trying to find his footing after watching someone take their own life. I give it an 8 out of 10.
I give it a 6 out of 10 because while Jean unleashing pyro power on an enemy chopper is excellent property damage, the rest of the issue is bogged down by bureaucratic yelling from a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Extreme X-Men issue 34 tracks the new Secretary of Defense Henrietta throwing darts at a map to locate random killers, while Guy brutally kicks Spike Freeman to death for selling weapons to Saddam Hussein right before Sniper shoots Lacuna.
Henrietta relying on darts and dead spirits to form a national defense strategy is absolute peak chaos. But Guy snapping and kicking a man in the neck is shockingly brutal. I give it a 7 out of 10.
I issue a massive 9 out of 10 because kicking a corrupt weapons dealer to death and immediately following it up with a high-velocity sniper assassination perfectly satisfies every requirement of the bomb's metric.
That concludes the speed round, and I seriously need a glass of water after running through that much collateral damage.
Before we shut down the recording, I want you to consider a final thought. We spent today looking at heroes and villains hiding behind plastic surgery, political offices, and darkened rooms. Ask yourself what hidden identity you are currently protecting in your own life, and whether the constant overprocessing of your daily routine is actually hiding your true range from the people around you.
And that closes the ledger. Cannon keepers, secure the perimeter and hit that notification bell.
And do not go anywhere. We are playing our brand new track right now. It is our musical interpretation of the comic narratives from the last 6 months. I did record a solo track as well, but this duet was significantly better. Here is Continuity Drift.
Forensic timeline audit. This drift is getting loud. Cannon cracking open, editorial chases crowd. Emma Frost, actuarial pivot all wrong. Ecstatics in the roster where X-Force belongs. Spidey, Logan, DD out to punish the name. 3 distinct moral codes forced inside the exact same frame. Elders of the universe, fooled by plots a child could see. Cap takes 1,000-foot header, walks off casually. Daredevil 57, NYX issue 3. Contradictions never quit, staring right back at me. Silence on the timeline, processing this hit job on the page. Diving through the long boxes, chronically enraged. Continuity drift, dropping lore into the void. Intellectual split, but that splash page still destroys. Plastic on plastic history. Ripping straight out of the dream.
You're overthinking the ink, reason. Look at the spread. Stuck on meeting the maker. I'm already 10 steps ahead. Forget the sticker scandal. Forget the boba texture crime. Carving streets on the XR, leaving GT dust behind.
Continuity's a fever dream. Bending canon till it screams. Flawless variant covers while the narrative breaks at the seams.
Look, who cares about the logic when the foil print looks this clean? It's a timeline spiral, baby, the wildest one we've ever seen.
Drift, driving lore into page still destroys plastic on plastic history. Tearing at the seam. Continuity. Drift ripping straight out of the dream. Fantastic Four, 5'11", uncanny 440, breaking the spine. Gene defaults to resurrection, leave the forensics behind.
Wolverine in 6 books at once, shrugging, that's fine.
Elders fooled by holograms, peak timeline decline.
Casual reading is dying. This era hits below the knee.
Printed on filament, baby. Just let the comic book be.
Just trying to find a clean copy for new comic book day. Stop auditing the noise.
Continuity.